There we go. And on mic, you can hear me all right, right?
I can hear you fine. As long as
Yeah,
you can hear me, I guess then we can hear each other. Where are you
perfect.
sitting? Somewhere in Miramichi, yeah?
Yes, yes, just up near Carrefour Soleil, the French school up on the Newcastle side. So
Oh, okay. All right. So you must be pretty close to where I'll be on Saturday.
yeah, and you're going to Mill Cove, right?
We're going to the Newcastle Public Library.
Oh, the public library. Oh, awesome.
Yes. Yeah, the venue was changed a couple of weeks ago, I think. She couldn't get where she was going.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's great. Well, that's a great venue. I did one there once with Pauline Young, native artist, and it was an incredible story. She
Oh,
put a
oh,
bunch of
right. Okay, yeah.
pictures and books about the schools and things, and she
Yeah,
was one
yeah.
of the artists for that, so it was quite interesting.
Yeah. No,
So
so
there's a whole group of yous going.
yeah, there's quite a few. I think it'll be about 4 or 5 readers altogether.
Wow.
So it'll be quite a nice event and starts at 1 o'clock. I hear it's a really nice library.
It
It's on
is.
the
It's really nice there. Yeah, got a big roundabout stairs, open windows. It's really nice.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I love these kind of things, and it's this Saturday coming up, right?
This Saturday starts at 1 o'clock.
One
Yeah.
o'clock. Okay, perfect. So we'll promote that all week. Get some people up there, hopefully, and
Oh, right. Yeah.
listening in. So tell us a little bit about your story, about the books you write, and how you got interested in writing and that kind of stuff.
Oh my. Okay. Well, I started writing, although I hadn't realized that's what I was doing. I guess maybe 30. Oh, going on 40 years ago, I think. Most of my writing then was non-fiction to do with my work, and eventually morphed into the work that I did, what I labeled emotional fitness, and that's a lot of the work I did under my birth name, Warren Redman. So all my non-fiction work, 9 Steps to Emotional Fitness, was the big one that won a Canadian award for best counseling book. All those books are under my name, Warren Redman. Recipes for Inner Peace, Achieving Personal Success, those kind of books. And then I realized about 12 years ago, I think I really liked the storytelling part of it. So I decided I would concentrate just on fiction. Enough of the other more, if you like, technical stuff of writing, but I just wanted to use my imagination and listen to the stories that other people told me and turn them into something else. So for that, I used my pen name, which is Zev Bagel, which is also, there's another story attached to that. Zev is my given Hebrew name.
Okay.
So I'm Jewish, and every Jewish boy gets to be given a birth name. And my name was Zev, which actually means wolf,
Oh, really?
which
Oh,
was my grandfather's name. I never knew him, so I'm named after him. And my mother's maiden name was Bagel. So there were, I'm Zev Bagel. I mean, who'd make it up, Rob? Right?
Wolf bagel. I like it.
Everyone laughs and think, "Oh, I mean, who's going to make it up?" But it's close to my real name as it could be, really. So for
Wow.
my fiction books,
That's
um,
your Mark Twain type pseudonym kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, okay, right. And of course, everyone just knows him as Mark Twain, right?
Yeah.
So, and in the fiction writing book world, that's what I'm known as, Zev. So I'm very comfortable with that. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
awesome. And this
yeah.
latest book, so well, actually, let's go back to your self-help book. So what how did you find that sort of transformed you or writing them and what was the idea behind that? What were you trying to achieve or help people with?
Well, initially, I think I was trying to help myself.
Well, that's the best way to go.
I was trying to figure out what it was that I was working at and what I was doing and what seemed to work for me and for other people. And I started jotting things down at first. And over a long, painful period of probably about 15 years, my first book came out, which was more or less a kind of description of the kind of the work that I've been doing, mostly to help people listen at much deeper levels to themselves and to other people. So that's how I got into that. And then I started teaching some of that stuff. And other people would say to me, hey, you got to write that. So I was kind of cajoled into writing more stuff, and it kept going on from there, really.
So
Right.
what would you say that you learned? What was one of the more prophetic kind of intuitions you got from your writing and understanding that you came to like, oh, a light
Oh,
sort of
okay.
switched on. You know how you're writing sometimes and
Yeah, yeah.
sort of gets you thinking, it's like, wow, now I get it. So was there any moment for you that did it?
Absolutely. A moment, let me think. I think the moment when I actually went, oh, I got it, big light, epiphany, was when I realized I'd been carrying with me the belief that I had an unhappy childhood, right? I had a lot of early, in my early years, my close family members died, quite a few of them. My mother, my grandmother, my great grandfather, all of whom I'd lived with till the age
Okay.
of 5 or 7 years old. And one by one, by the time I was 10, they'd all gone. And I lived the next 20 or so years, 20 to 30 years, with a kind of poor me attitude, really, and keeping myself at a distance from people. I didn't want to get close to people because what would they do? They'd disappear, right? And I had this epiphany as I was writing and realized that I'd entrapped myself in that belief. And I realized that before that, like up to the age of 7, I'd had a really happy childhood with a whole lot of love around me. And I knew that that was not lost. It was still there. I just shut it off. So that was a
Instead of
huge moment.
concentrating on the negative, you start to look for the positives in your life.
I discovered that the positive was still there. Uh,
Wow.
and I was able to transform the frustration, the unhappiness that I'd had
So
into to
did
good
you
stuff.
write on a way of how you made that transformation or how you discovered that or how people could discover that in your book? Is that how?
Yeah. What I wrote about was how I discovered these things, the
Okay,
tools I used to listen to myself at really deep levels
that's awesome.
that can be transferred to others. So that was yeah, that was the moment, I guess.
Well,
Oh,
that's
there were
awesome.
many moments, but that was one big moment you asked for.
Oh, that's awesome. So I I don't know if you know Jordan Peterson or a few guys I've listened to talk about the different writings from some of their favorite authors, the difference between fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah.
Is that with the fiction they could go to places that you couldn't go, that you were sort of stuck. When you're in the nonfiction, you're kind of like, I have to stay here within this box. But
Yeah.
once you could let a story out and express it in a story, they could sort of get across their point better. Did you find that with changing from one writing to the other?
Yeah, nonfiction is very different from fiction, but I find that my intention in writing fiction is really just to tell the stories in the best way I possibly can. But I know that at a deeper level, there is always something for me to learn as I write it, and I hope for the reader to get as well, because the
Journey,
stories
yeah.
are, after all about human life in some way.
So what's the book that you're going to be talking about this weekend when you come up? What is that about?
Yeah. Okay, I'm actually going to be uh, reading some excerpts from two of my books, my two
Oh,
latest
okay.
books, because one came out last year, and I hadn't had the opportunity to launch it in Miramichi, partly because of COVID and everything. Um, and that one is called Solitary. And it's based on a true story told to me by an Iranian friend who actually lives in New Brunswick.
Oh, really?
And he told me the story of his family and his upbringing and his ancestors really in Iran. And when he was, I think he was 9 years old at the time of the Iranian Revolution, and he remembers watching the revolution start in the streets outside his home. And as a family, a very prominent and well-off family, they lost everything in the revolution. His father was put into jail, and all the stuff that goes on in Iranian prisons he told me about. And I thought this was such a remarkable story that I wanted to write it, but I fictionalized it. and I brought it up to date with a Canadian character who finishes up in solitary confinement in Iran, and he communicates through a tiny hole in the cell wall with an Iranian prisoner, and they share their stories with each other. So it's the story of, well, many levels, but how an individual can cope with that situation of being in solitary confinement and the inner life that goes on there, and the sharing of their stories. So that was quite a project. I again learned a lot for myself in writing it, and I hope it comes across in a way that people will not just get a lot from the writing, but get a lot from themselves. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then my other book, the latest one, just came out this year, is called The Last Jew in Hania.
The Last Jew in Hania.
The Last Jew in Hania. Hania is a small, very picturesque village in Crete, the island of Crete. It was a fishing village, I guess, for most of its life. And now it's kind of pretty much a tourist place, I suppose. But my wife and I went there 10 years ago or more, I think, and discovered this story of what happened to the small Jewish community in Hania during the Second World War in 1944, when the Germans had invaded Crete. And the whole of the community, about 275 souls, were put on board a merchant vessel by the Nazis to be shipped off to their ultimate destination, which almost certainly would have been Auschwitz. And as the boat left port, it was spotted by a British submarine who torpedoed it. And every single one of the Jewish community on board was lost, was drowned in that instant, except for one young woman who'd hidden and stayed on the island, and she lived the rest of her life out on her own. And the synagogue that they all used, Etz Chaim is its name, which means tree of life, was just went into rack and ruin, and was, yeah. And many years later, it was brought back to life. There's no real Jewish community there now, 3 or 4 people, but it's a worldwide recognized center for Jewish history and so on. And so I learned that story, and this stayed with me for like a decade or more. I had to write it because I found that no one else had written the book about it. Yeah. So again, I fictionalized it. I wanted to bring those people to life. We have all their names, and that's all we know about them. So I wanted to give them lives, and I made up a present-day young Canadian woman whose grandmother asked her to go back to Crete, to Hania, and discover their roots, and so she uncovers the story. So that's The Last Jew in Hania. That's what that's about. Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite an experience, Rob.
You're going to do a reading from that?
Yeah, I'll do.
Now that I know the stories of them, I have to pick up the books because this is amazing. I met you down at the market. Is that one of your wife's paintings behind you?
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
and you were telling me a story, and I just had to get it out there because you just seemed like an incredible individual, one to bring light into the world, kind of thing. I liked it. So,
well, it's yeah, there's stories that have to be told, and if nobody else has told them, then I feel impelled to do it. Yeah, it really grabs me. So,
well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, we look forward to that, and I'll be there this Saturday for sure because I'm looking.
That'll be great.
Be nice the whole thing and picking up a book. So everybody, make sure you come out Saturday and see Zev's stuff. And the first book you were telling me about, it was reminding me. I can't remember I had read a book from a POW who had been somewhere in Vietnam or one of the camps, and he'd been there for 5 years, and he was talking about the death of people. And he said the only people who died were the people who stopped believing they would ever get rescued.
Yes.
He says once you lose that belief in a better ending, something to reach for, you no longer want to live. You lose your will to live. So we really need to create that ending, that this is why we want to keep going on all the time. Something to strive for.
That is so right. My great mentor and friend was a man called Eugene Heimler. And I learned much of what I use and write about now in emotional fitness from him. He was a survivor of various concentration camps, including Auschwitz. And that's almost exactly word to word, Rob. That's what he told me. The
Wow.
people who survived were able to do two things. They were able to delve into their happy past and able to look at a future. Because if you dealt with the present, you could not survive. And that's what my man in that book, Solitary, recognizes.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of like, I was trying to explain to somebody the other day about you stand in a parade. If you're standing at the parade, all you see is what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
But if you go back and you stand on the hill and you watch the whole parade, you can see what's coming and where it goes at the end. And sometimes if we just change our perspective a bit, step back, we can start to realize it's not quite as bad or quite as good as we think. Both can be overwhelming. We can think, oh, this is it, I've made it. And then all of a sudden the big crash, you don't see it coming. This is terrible, life is awful, then things get better. So it's not, none of that is true. It's only just a moment in our whole perspective of things.
Yeah. Right? Our life is just our perspective of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we can change.
And then pretty much, isn't that what scripture is? They've been writing for years. The perspective, look, get a perspective. Here's the whole big picture. If you take the time to actually go through the Bible and look at the stories and the perspective of it, they're sort of stepping back saying, look, if you do this, you go down this path, you do this, you go down this path. And people miss that about all the stories in the Bible and the incredible knowledge you can get out of that stuff.
Yeah, that's some of the best stories ever. They're
incredible. Yes. These stories, right? What we do. But yeah, that I get so much out of those things. People miss all that stuff because they get so worried about the biases of everything that they don't bother to even look into any of it. And that's too bad, I find.
Right.
And same on the other side. Like I read a lot. I don't know if you ever read the Tao or the Tao Te Ching or any of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But incredible writings and knowledge and stuff, ideas of how to move forward in life and take out the hard struggles of your life. Yeah. If you took the time to pay attention to any of it, you could make a difference.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's what writing can do for us, whatever the source. I mean, I write some poetry, and when I hear other people's poetry or read other people's poetry, wow, in a few lines, what insights one can get. So yeah,
I'm dabbling in it, and I can't stop. I'm addicted to it now. But I go out every morning and watch the sunrise, and I write what I think, and it sort of works out into a prose or poetry. But there's something transforming about the whole thing.
Yes, yeah. How we look.
I think everybody should write out where they want to go, what they're trying to get to, so that they start to have an understanding of what is I actually want to do. Yeah. Just get a little bit of glimpse, and then you have a place to move forward to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the power of writing itself is such that it can do exactly that, change one's perspective and understanding, and therefore one's life.
And if you tell everybody you're watching TV and Netflix, you're seeing somebody else's stories.
Yeah.
What's your story? What's your story?
We each have amazing, remarkable stories.
It's incredible.
And let's get them out. Not everyone can write them out.
No.
But in some creative way, my wife uses the medium of art. Yeah, we can use whatever we do in our work, in our pastimes. We can express ourselves, and all we need to be doing is be conscious of that's what we're doing, and then it makes a difference.
Incredible thing. I mean, so many people on this sort of I call it my awakening of life. Of people are on this journey of like, how do I make myself better so that the world can be a better place to live?
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah. We think we're totally powerless to change anything in the world, which is not in a very good state. Let's face it right now. But we have immense power to be able to change ourselves in it, and therefore that changes the world.
Yeah. Well, what Marcus Aurelius says, we're colored by our life is dyed by the color of our thoughts. So that's really the way to think about it. How do we think, and how do we think about it? And I catch myself sometimes, I try never to watch the news or all that stuff on TV. I try to stay away from it all now. because it's a narrative, right? It's a this is happening, that's happening, and
Yeah.
why not just pay attention to what's actually happening around you?
Actually,
And you
happening
meet
around.
some beautiful people and some wonderful things. And I'm like, life isn't that bad. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty good. Look at these wonderful people and the amazing things they're doing. They're writing books, they're drawing paintings, they're helping their neighbors, they're feeding the food bank. Like it's incredible what's going on in our world.
Yeah.
But the narrative is we're all, it's terrible. Life is awful. It's like, no, it's not that at all. Well, not for me anyway. So my thoughts enjoy the world. I try to get people to understand it's a much better world than they're telling us.
Yeah, there is a lot of good news, but that's not what's usually broadcast.
No. we need a channel, the good news channel.
Yes. Well, you have one. Yeah,
The positive voice. There you go. Tune in.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, good work.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Zev, I thank you. I look forward to it. I wish I could talk to you all day.
My pleasure. Well, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and coming down to the market, and then you can always go down and see Zev if you get down to Moncton Way in Dieppe. He's at the Dieppe market, and you always have your books there, and your wife has her paintings there. And this Saturday for sure, come out to the library here in Newcastle and listen to a reading and pick up a book and enjoy.
Absolutely,
it's gonna be a fun day.
And the following Saturday, if you're around the area of Moncton, in Riverview at the Lions Club on Coverdale Road, there's going to be a book fair with about 40 authors there with their books.
Oh, wow.
So there won't be readings, but you can meet all the authors there. So that's all 10 till 4 o'clock in Riverview.
I got to get into this group. Now that I started writing books, I got to find out who these people are.
Yeah, well, there we are. Well, come and meet them all. Come and meet them all.
Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be great. Well, Zev, I look forward to it. And tomorrow you'll be able to listen to this on the radio too. You can tune in and
excellent. Thank you.
Hear this whole interview and get people pumped up.
Thanks a lot.
And I look forward to it. And I'm sure we're going to meet lots of times at the market and stuff.
Yeah.
And, look forward to it sounds like you can teach me a whole bunch of the good things.
We can teach each other. All right. Okay.
It was nice seeing you, Zev. You have a great day.
Amen. Thanks, Rob.